Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. The mother of the sons of Zebedee approached Jesus with her sons and did him homage, wishing to ask him for something. He said to her, "What do you wish?" She answered him, "Command that these two sons of mine sit, one at your right and the other at your left in your kingdom." Jesus said in reply, "You do not know what you are asking. Can you drink the chalice that I am going to drink?" They said to him, "We can." He replied, "My chalice you will indeed drink, but to sit at my right and at my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father." When the 10 heard this, they became indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus summoned them and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great ones make their authority over them felt. But it shall not be so much among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you shall be your servant. Whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. Just so the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give life, his life as a ransom for many." The Gospel of the Lord.
As a history major, I've often enjoyed watching war movies, not for the destruction, but just for the amazing courage that we often find in it. And one of the things in common, whether it is in the Roman times or the Middle Ages, World War I, today, at the beginning, the young people, the young men, when they're told they're going off to war, are filled with excitement. There was one movie I saw, it was World War I. They were actually jumping up and down in the street and, in a sense, proclaiming, yes, we can drink of this chalice. And as time goes on and they enter the realities of war, the suffering, the destruction, the death, they are overwhelmed. And indeed, they truly do drink of the chalice. But it was not the glory that they expected. Not to equate this exactly, but we can find some of the same thing in marriage and priesthood. Those who are married or those watching young couples, they come up in front of the priest, in front of their family and friends, and they make vows for better or worse. And they're excited, and they should be, and they're totally in love, and they should be. And they're asked to drink of the chalice, and they say, "Oh yes, we can drink of that chalice." And then many of us, for those who are married, know that that chalice sometimes brought a lot of suffering, a lot of blessings, a lot of joys, no doubt, but some suffering in the cross as well. And we find this even in the priesthood. I know that on the day of my ordination and working up to it, my friends and I, they're about to be ordained. We're saying, yes, we can drink the chalice. We're going to go in. We're going to heal the church. We're going to change the church. It's going to be better. And yes, boy, did we drink the chalice. This is what we find with James and his brother and the apostles this morning in the gospel. Can you drink of the chalice of which I drink? His passion, suffering, cross, crucifixion, his death. Oh, yes, we can do that. We can drink of that chalice. And Jesus is so gentle and kind with them, isn't he? He says, yes, you will. He doesn't give them much detail, and that's part of his mercy and gentleness. I'm glad, and maybe some of you are too, that he doesn't show, sometimes people want to know what's coming up, what's going to happen in my life. but in his mercy, he doesn't show us. I think about my ordination day again, and just before I was ordained, if they would have showed me, here's a video of the next 25 years of your priesthood, I would have run out of the cathedral and gone to Walmart. So his gentleness is he lets it unfold. And then that is a moment of faith for us, a moment of love for us, as each chalice that we drink, and we're transformed by that chalice. How we're transformed by that suffering, that carrying of that particular cross. It transforms us to be like our Master. And James would experience this. James, he said, yes, I'll drink of the chalice, and he drank of it to his martyrdom. But for the glory, not of himself, but for the glory of God. For the growth and the well-being of the church. And St. Paul, in our first reading, he understands this as well. Let me just read again some parts of the first reading. St. Paul to the Corinthians. He says yes, right? From when he was Saul, he said no, but when he becomes Paul, he says yes to drinking the chalice. And so much of his letters, we experience with him what that meant. But he says, here's how he's transformed. We are afflicted in every way. We have afflictions in every way, but we're not constrained. We're perplexed. Now, how many times when we're having a suffering of the cross, we're perplexed by it? That's normal. It's perplexing. But we're not driven to despair. It doesn't wipe us out. At times we may feel it. We may feel at the very bottom of what we can handle. But with faith, we're not driven to despair. We're persecuted. People may not understand us. We've experienced that. But we're not abandoned. We may be struck down, but we're not destroyed. Always carrying about in the body the dying of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be manifested in our body. And the life of Jesus is that treasure in we who are the earthen vessel. And as we surrender more and more to God's holy will, that treasure takes over the earthen vessel, and we become like an icon of Jesus. Then we can bring God's glory to our family and friends, not because of the great things we do, but because the great workings that Jesus is doing within us. Let us pray that in the Eucharist that we receive today, as we drink of the chalice, his true body, blood, soul, and divinity, that it may strengthen us for the chalices that God brings in our way, for our holiness, our transformation, and for the good of his church, for the glory of God.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui